Hey everyone, just a short video introducing APA style. The slides that I'm working from, as well as the Word document that we'll switch to towards the end of the presentation, are available to you if you want to take some notes. Take some notes on them during the lecture. So we should start by just talking about what is APA. APA is short for the American Psychological Association. When we talk about APA style, what we're typically referring to is the publication manual of the American Psychological Association, and that is sort of the document that governs just about every aspect of writing and publishing in the social and behavioral sciences. Now, depending on your educational history, you may have encountered other style guides. MLA is widely used in the humanities. The Chicago Manual of Style is another one. Turabian is yet another. But social work, along with some of the other social and behavioral sciences, has adopted the American Psychological Association conventions. The manual is currently in its 6th edition. There are other editions out there, but they made some changes from edition 5. So make sure you have the correct edition. And I do recommend that you buy it. It's something you'll refer to throughout your time in graduate school. So in my mind, there's 3 chapters that are sort of most relevant for graduate student papers, and they are chapters 1, 4, and 6. Chapter 6 might be the most important, but Chapter 1 covers writing in the behavioral and social sciences. Chapter 4 covers the mechanics of style, so that's things like capitalization, punctuation, how to refer to numbers, that kind of thing. And then Chapter 6 is all about citations, and Chapter 7 lists actual examples of the different kinds of citations we would use. So one of the questions I get quite frequently are, what elements do I look for with respect to APA in a paper? So I've got a list here that I'll run through in a second, but let me just pause and remind you that in a second, or towards the end of this presentation, we'll switch to a Word document, and I'll illustrate these for you. So you'll have an example of them as well. But a couple of things that I do look for are related to font. So you should use Times New Roman, and the size of that font should be 12 point. Secondly, everything should be double spaced, and that means no skipping spaces, no unneeded spaces, no extra spaces anywhere. The only exception to that is that the references should start on a new page, and the references are included at the end of the document. There should be a running head and page numbers on each page. There should be headings and subheadings used to organize the paper, and they should be formatted properly. And then there should be 1-inch margins on all 4 sides of the document. So I'm going to pause the video here for a second and just pull up that Word document, and I will illustrate those things real quick. Okay, so we've got the Word document here on the screen now. Again, this is available to you if you're interested in taking a look at it. So this is the title page. You can see a couple of things on it. Right in the middle of the page, centered, sort of top to bottom and left to right, is the information about the paper. That's the paper title, the student's name, the name of the class, and the date. This information doesn't need to be italicized or put in bold or anything like that. You can just list it in the sort of center of the title page. The other thing to note on the title page is that there is a running head and the words running head, and that appears at the top left-hand side of the paper in the section of the page that's known as the header. Note that the words running head are listed on the cover page, followed by a colon. And that's just to alert the reader to what the running head is. The running head itself is then given in all capital letters immediately after that. And the running head itself is typically an abbreviated version of the title of the paper. So it's not the full title of the paper, it's just a shortened version of that title. And note too that at the top right hand side of the page there's page numbers, and the first page does get a page number as well. Now I'll pause here and give you just a brief hint. It is very common for Word to default to a different font style and size, and that includes the running head. So make sure that you change the font and the size of the page number and running head to be Times New Roman and in the 12-point size. If we scroll down here to the second page, giving you just a little bit of or illustrated just a few things. The first are levels of headings. And at the graduate level, we use headings essentially to organize a paper. And the way that they're formatted is specified by APA. I'll give you that page number here in a second. But level 1 headings, you would always start with a level 1 heading that is centered, bold, and uses capital letters at the start of each word. If you needed to subdivide a level 2, if you needed to subdivide a level 1 heading, you would use a level 2 heading, and that's simply moved to the left-hand side of the paper. A few other things that I've illustrated on here. The 1-inch margin all around, the fact that everything's double-spaced as well. All right, so we'll switch back to that Word document in a second. But there's a few parts of the APA manual that I think are particularly helpful. But before we get to those, one of the questions I get occasionally is, do I need to include an abstract? The answer to that is no. For my classes, an abstract is not necessary. For other classes, check with your instructor, check the syllabus. But if you're in a class with me, you do not need to include an abstract. So here's a list of things that I think are most helpful in the APA manual. Page 41 through 59 includes an example paper. There's actually a couple in there. The content of those papers isn't all that important, but the formatting is illustrated for you. Page 62 contains a chart of the different levels of headings and how they're formatted. Again, remember that you always start with a level 1 heading, and then if you needed to subdivide that first section, you would use a level 2 heading. If you needed to subdivide again, you would use a level 3 heading. Page 169 to 172 include a discussion of citations, when to cite, quoting, and plagiarism. We should note real quick that in my classes I discourage the use of quotes. I'm going to post a second video later in the semester that talks more explicitly about the writing process and moving beyond quotes. But that's for more towards the middle of the semester. Page 177 has a chart with how you format citations when there are multiple authors. And then pages 193 to 198 actually contains a list of sources that we often cite in social work research papers. So it'll contain everything from books to journal articles to government documents, that kind of thing. And I actually find that locating the structure of the citation is easier in pages 193 to 198 than it is looking in the appendix or the table of contents. A few other helpful hints. The APA manual addresses just about everything related to writing in the social and behavioral sciences. If you're unsure of how to do something, consult the APA manual. the APA manual is sort of the authority on how things are formatted and how things are structured. That said, there are a couple of helpful online resources. The APA maintains a website that occasionally has some interesting or helpful answers, and then the OWL at Purdue site. OWL stands for the Online Writing Lab, and that's at Purdue University. The school library's got some resources as well. Lastly, I know that APA can be complicated and it can be confusing. Don't ever hesitate to ask for help, clarification, or guidance. So I'm going to pause the video one more time and just go back to the Word document and just talk for a second about citations. Okay, so we're here in the Word document again, and one of the questions that I frequently get are, when do I cite? Well, citations are used to give credit to any author whose work has had any kind of influence on your own. So it's very common for papers in graduate school to have lots and lots of different cites from lots and lots of different sources. Citations always go at the end of a sentence. They go inside the punctuation, and their general format is author and year. There's examples in both this document and the APA manual. Again, it's common for the papers we cite to have been written by multiple authors, and APA tells us how to structure those citations when there are multiple authors. I think that's page 172 in the APA manual. So we are going to talk more about writing and citations and incorporating different citations later on in the semester, but for now this gives sort of the brief introduction. As always, get in touch with questions or any problems that you have. Thanks for watching.